So thank you for coming. Thank you for attending OWASP conference as well. I think that these conferences are a great way to engage with your peers. Occasionally talk to us vendors. Sometimes we have something interesting to say. But actually just to engage with the industry. It's really super important that you engage with the industry. Down on our stand, probably every second person is talking to us about, how do I either increase my cybersecurity knowledge, or how do I move from what I'm doing today into security, or the third one is, can I have a job, which is lovely. We're not hiring, unfortunately, in New Zealand just at the moment, but I'm based in Australia. I live in Sydney. My name is Stephen Gillies. Although everyone who knows me calls me Max. Please call me Max. If you're an Australian, you'd understand why I'm being called Max. It's to do with the Gillies. There was an Australian comedian by the name of Max Gillies, very popular when I was coming through high school. I got the nickname and it stuck. I work for an organisation that many people have never heard of, but you would use this every day. So Fastly is a global network, and on top of that network, we have built a number of products. So we have our own servers sitting on the backbone of the internet, hyper-connected to the internet. The first product that we built on that network was a content delivery network, CDN. So there are a bunch of CDNs out there, which is amazing. We love competing with them. Often we compete on speed, our ability to deliver bits faster. We have 3 POPs here in New Zealand, and a lot of large organisations here in New Zealand use us to deliver bits. But then a few years ago, we actually bought a security company. So we bought Signal Sciences. And Signal Sciences is a web application firewall. The web application firewall is an amazing piece of kit. And if you went to Guy's presentation yesterday, you would have seen some of the cool things that we're doing in that space. The Fastly next generation web application firewall automates a whole lot of stuff you usually need to hand code. So why, might you ask, am I doing a presentation on how to avoid sending traffic to WAFs? It's something that we sell. But I'm going to do that anyway because I think that there is an opportunity to use the delivery network in a really smart way to reduce the number of things that we're sending to the WAF, and in turn, make the internet fast, safe, and engaging. This is what Fastly is all about. So I mentioned that we have this global network, 3 POPs here in New Zealand. We rate the entire network as 250 terabits. So it's a pretty big network. We deliver things like the Super Bowl. If you watch any streaming media, it probably delivered over Fastly. Stuff, Trade Me, a bunch of other New Zealand customers. But I'm not here to sell you a product. What I'm here to do is to try and help do security in the right spot. So there are a whole lot of things that you should be doing in your application. You should be building your application securely. That's awesome. There are a whole lot of things that you need to do at the edge of your network, so within your organization. And then the delivery platform that you use, you might use a CDN. There are a whole lot of things you can do in that space as well. And adding a WAF in that space is always a good thing. But what about the things that you can do for free? So, first of all, we offer real-time visibility for everything that goes through the Fastly network. So that means real-time logging. Real-time logging, so that you know what's happening, so you know what's hitting your applications, is something that all of our customers use. And the Fastly real-time logging environment is awesome. It's awesome because you can do conditional logging and you have access to the 300+ variables that are in the Fastly network that you get for free. So we have a whole lot of variables that describe all sorts of things. This is an example, my current favorite logline, because it's simple. I hit my test site, 76ers.com, last night from the hotel. I'm in Auckland. going via Spark. Protocol is HTTP2, and I got a 200 back. So having this information in real time is something that is really super useful if you're under attack, for example. Where are the attackers coming from? And so here, if I was attacking my site, I could see, well, the ASN is 4771. That happens to be Spark New Zealand. I know what the IP address is. I know what URL they've tried to hit. And I've got all that information in real time. So if you've got a logging system that's able to do webhooks or something like that, you could very easily add that IP address to a blacklist. That's a great way to start. You might also, if you're a TV New Zealand, for example, only deliver services to customers that are in New Zealand. So you do a geo block, you block at the edge, doesn't go to the WAF. As I said, there are lots of variables, though, that you have access to, and this is more what I want to talk to you about today. Let's maybe take maybe one of the, say, a client version. Maybe you want to block actually any, I can't walk that far because I'm on camera. You might want to block the client platforms. Some of those things will never hit your site. And so let's just block them at the edge so they don't need to go to the WAF. So hopefully you can see that there is the opportunity here to block things within the content delivery network so that you can reduce your WAF bills, because how WAFs charge is by request, mostly. There are some WAFs that charge for a whole lot of other things as well, like if it's a really big request, they charge you more money. If it's a really small request, but essentially it's requests per second. So the less that we can send to the WAF, the better. Does that make sense? Cool, awesome. So let's send less traffic to WAFs. Just so you can sort of see what we're talking about here, you've got anything, API clients, IoT devices, browsers, mobile, bad guys, bots, everything, comes into the Fastly Edge Cloud platform, which is that content delivery network. We actually smash the WAF inside that as well, but it hits what is the core of Fastly, which is Varnish. So Varnish, open source platform, well-used proxy, delivered lots of really interesting capabilities for customers who came on board with Fastly, being able to do all that geo-blocking and IP address blocking, etc. Very early on. That's still the core of Fastly's CDN network, that Varnish cache. So what are some of the other things, though, that we can do now that we've got this platform that receives that first request? What are some of the other more interesting things that we can do to stop content going to the WAF? Because that's essentially, we want to allow good content, but we want to stop bad things or things that we don't want going to the WAF. So here are a couple of examples. Varnish has access to all of the headers. So anything that's in a header, you can make a decision about. So you might say, if there is no user agent, then you're going to be pretty certain that that's not a real user. So let's just drop that immediately. Maybe it looks like the Googlebot. So the UA is the media partner's Googlebot. You want Googlebot. Like, there are good bots and bad bots. The Googlebot is generally a good bot because otherwise your SEO tanks. So let's allow the Googlebot, but if it's something that says that it's Google, but it's not coming from the Google network, it's not Google. So let's drop that. You can easily override your user agent. So let's drop anything that's not actually coming from the Google network. I've got a couple of examples. And then, that ASN, there are some amazing lists of ASNs, ISP networks that you never really ever want any traffic from. There are whole Indian ISPs that, if you're not selling to the Indian market, there's no reason for them to hit your network. There are whole parts of other, Brazil, other areas that have very, very well-known compromised networks. And so being able to block them by ASN at the edge before they get anywhere near the WAF is something that is very, very effective for decreasing the amount of bad traffic that's coming into your network. So let me show you a little bit what that looks like. So is anyone here a Fastly user, other than the two Fastly people who are here? No? Excellent. 10 seconds on the Fastly interface. You can log in, standard user, we've got role-based access control. You create a number of services. We don't limit how many services you can create. You can see this one, the 7.6 one that I'm going to use as a demo. Come in here, you can see how many requests it's getting. We do version control, an event log of what's happened, who's changed what. But the core of it is the service configuration section. It's very simple. You set up a domain, and then you set up some origins, and then some rules that go with them. So the domain is 76ers.com. You can actually get to that now. 76ers.com was blocked by the university's firewall yesterday, which made this demo a little bit different. And that was fun. I've got a hotspot, which introduces all these other cool things. I've got an eSIM, but the eSIM is a Hong Kong 3 network eSIM. So it trombones all my traffic via Hong Kong, which is cool. Anyway, that aside, I'm on the university network, so this will go a lot differently. Set up my origins. This origin happens to be in the US, doesn't really matter. So we terminate TLS at Fastly, HTTPS certificate gets terminated, and then we set up another TLS connection to the back end. Everything's encrypted, everyone's happy. We have the opportunity for you to add block lists, those IP block lists. Remember I was saying if there's an IP address that you see, could be a network as well, so we can block by entire network. But we always recommend that the very first thing that you do is force TLS and HSTS. And it's very, very easy to do that at the edge of the network and then not have to worry about any of that for any of your application. In fact, because Fastly terminates your public-facing TLS certificate at the Fastly edge, you could use any certificate like you like, even an internal one, to connect between Fastly and your application. And that's often the way that people make sure that any connection that's coming into their application is coming via the Fastly network or the CDN, instead of going around it by guessing what the IP address is or something like that. So there's a lot of security in there that you can add, and doing it simply with a checkbox at the edge is definitely something that we would strongly recommend. But let's get into that example, for example, with the examples with the Googlebot. So when I started at Fastly, a whole lot of my friends asked me two questions. The first one was, why are you joining a CDN company? Because CDN's not security. I think that CDN is security and should be used for security. But the second question was, there's a lot of programming involved, and anyone who knows me knows that I'm not really a programmer. I'm just going to say I love VCL, Varnish Configuration Language. It's really super simple. So this says, if the user agent says that it's Googlebot and matches it, you can use a regular expression if you like, but the AS number is not Google LLC, throw it away, because it's not the Googlebot. And you can set those up for any of the other bots, any of the other SEO bots that are good bots, and then just dump everything else. Again, don't send it to the WAF. The WAF does a wonderful job at layer 7 web application control and monitoring and thresholding and rate limiting and all of these other cool things. But remember, you pay for all of the requests that are going through your WAF. So let's not pay, let's just stop them at the edge. All of the things that I'm showing you here are built into and available to any Fastly customer for no extra cost. And we are more than happy to share any of these templates with you. In fact, if you go to developer.fastly.com, there are a whole bunch of examples, some of which I have here as well. So that's the Googlebot. We can block an ASN exactly the same way. In this example, we have a key pair database that is distributed throughout our network. So when you update it, the key pair database in this case is an AS number, 10 seconds later, it's global. And so you can then start blocking by AS. So if there's an AS coming from Brazil that's causing your application some heartburn, you can just block it immediately. 10 seconds later, it's no longer taking any requests from that AS number. But I hear you say there are other CDNs that can do this. That's true. What I'm showing you here is not necessarily unique to Fastly. What I'm trying to suggest is that use the tools that you have, the delivery platforms that you have, to stop stuff as close to the user as you possibly can, because then you're reducing any of your costs ongoing, particularly your cost to a web application firewall or any other security services and tools you might have. I have a more complicated example, and let me check my time. My time is good. And then I have a couple of examples which are code-based examples, because not only does Fastly do that varnish at the edge, we've also a couple of years ago released the ability to write applications. We call it compute. It's compute functions, and push those to the edge. Essentially, you write something in your favorite language, use our compiler to cross-compile it to a WASM object, and then you push it globally, and it goes to all of our POPs. Let's stick with Varnish just for the moment, because this will lead us on to the more complex ones. So what we're doing here, Varnish gives you this essentially a very simple programming environment. There are some restrictions within Varnish about what you can do, but you know, we don't like switch or for loops. You don't want to be wrapped up assessing something for a long time, because Fastly is about delivering stuff as quickly as possible. But we can set up some local variables. So I'm going to set up a local variable here, which is this one. And I'm just going to call it access control. And I'm going to set access control to 0. At the end of this, we're going to see what the value of access control is. And if that access control variable is less than 0, we're going to throw that request away. Simple? I'm not getting many nods, but that's okay. I think you're following. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to assess whether that request is coming from a GDPR country. So I have a list of GDPR countries. Yeah, it's in a key pair database. And so if the geo request for the country comes in, it's coming from, say, Germany, then we're going to decrement our access control by 1. So we're now -1. So if we did nothing else, that request would get rejected, because at the end, remember, if access control is less than 0, we're throwing it away. But you might have some exceptions. So in this same piece of ECL, we're saying, well, GDPR is bad, but if you're in Great Britain, for some strange reason, we're going to allow you through. So we're going to get back to 0 because we're incrementing by 1 again. And so you can use these logic filters to work out if you're going to accept a request or not. And you can use any of the variables that we have for you at the edge to do that. So you might decide if the person is on a mobile, allow them through. If the person is in Great Britain, but they're at a known compromised network, block them. And so doing this at the edge, really super quick, and it's not a WAF. It's just some logic that you can deploy at the edge. There are a couple of different ways to do this as well. So let's go back to our Googlebot example. So this is a piece of JavaScript. Does anyone know JavaScript here? Yes, damn it, I should have used the Rust example. Anyway, I apologize for my absolutely terrible JavaScript. As I said, I'm not a programmer. If you go to the Google site and you put into Google, how do I make sure that it's actually really the Googlebot? Google will give you a process for checking. And that process is to do a reverse DNS on the IP address that's connecting and make sure that the PTR is google.com. And that's exactly what we're doing here in this piece of JavaScript. So we're looking at the request. We need to set an origin because the request needs to go somewhere eventually. But we're looking at the request. We're breaking up the octets. We're then doing a DNS request, which is this one here. And then if it comes back and the PTR is google.com, or if it's google.bot.com, then we're going to allow it. So again, not going to the WAF, we're doing this in compute at the edge. Now you might do some of these same kinds of things using an Edge Lambda or a Google function, something like that. There is typically a pretty high cost for that. Particularly a Lambda function, you need to terminate the TLS, you need to make sure that you have an elastic IP, like there are all of these extra things that you need to pile on top of that. With the Fastly environment, this is all built into our delivery network. So you can spin up this service, you can copy and paste this code. There is a mistake in it, so please fix it before you deploy it. You can copy and paste this code into your WASM application, deploy it to the Fastly network, and then any request that comes in, you can work out whether it's the Googlebot or not. Who likes Go? I actually really like TinyGo. I find it much easier. This looks very similar, and the reason it looks very similar is because it's doing exactly the same thing. So request comes in, we break it apart, we check if it's this reverse lookup, it's the Google or Googlebot domain, and then after a bit of requesting to the resolver, if it's successful, then we let it through. So hopefully I can show you here that the ability to stop things going to your WAF and doing some really super simple things at the edge means that you'll decrease the number of requests that go to your web application firewall. You'll maintain visibility with the logging and also control of exactly what comes through to your applications, all through to your WAF, right? There's still a place for WAF. I gave this talk yesterday, and one of the guys who came up afterwards, he said, oh, so I don't need a WAF anymore. Now, you absolutely need a WAF. Just looking at headers will not get you a good security protection. What I'm suggesting is that if we look at the headers and the request that's coming in and where it's coming from, then we can just drop all the stuff that we don't need to send to the WAF. We can drop it at the edge. And then the WAF can be used to do all the layer 7 deeper inspection stuff that WAFs are really great at. Any questions? Wow. Any questions from the audience? Any of the audience?
Your example of the GDPR countries being stored
Yeah.
into the KeePair database?
Yeah.
Could you, like, why are they in the KeePair database and not set as variables within that code?
In the example with GDPR, it's in the Varnish environment. You could absolutely set those, if you were using compute, you could absolutely set them in the compute solution. The reason that I would personally use Varnish instead is because you can update this very, very easily without having to recompile your application. Did that answer the question? I've maybe confused maybe everybody. So Fastly has a CDN Varnish environment. We also have a compute environment, which you can do very similar things with. So the example that I showed you, which was JavaScript and Go, with a compute environment, and this example and the example of dropping the user, the UA, is in the Varnish environment. So it's two separate environments. One of them's compiled, the other one is Varnish sitting on the Fastly network. Does that help?
Yeah. I mean, you did set a variable though in that, not on the compute.
Yep. Yep. And I can access the KeePair database as well from the compute environment because it's all the one platform. But the reason, coming back to your original question, the reason that I would set it as a KeePair database is because I can change it easily without having to recompile stuff. Cool. We also support Rust. Who's a Rust programmer? I got the same yesterday. Nobody codes in Rust anyway. So I'm sure some people do. We're continuing to add more examples, more languages. If you wanted to learn more about this topic, there is an enormous amount of content on our developer site. We have solutions, we have stuff that you can copy and paste. But I'd really super encourage you, if you want to learn more about how you can use the delivery network in tandem with the WAF, to come and chat to us. So Guy, who presented yesterday, he's quite happy to talk to you about WAF. I'm quite happy to talk to you about WAF. And we're all happy to talk to you about utilising the CDN more effectively. The last point that I wanted to leave you with, because I've got 3 minutes, I'm on time today, it's amazing, is please, when choosing a vendor to deploy your applications, to build your applications, to get visibility of your applications, please choose a vendor who is open and able to integrate with all of the other tools that you have. We did some research last year. We went out and we asked 200 Australia, New Zealand companies about their security tooling. And we got some pretty amazing, quite disappointing results, to be honest. So more than 50% of those 200 respondents from this region said that they had a WAF, but it wasn't on. And it wasn't on because they didn't trust it. Too many false positives. Which is scary, right? The other thing that we've heard in some research that we did earlier in this year was that when asked to identify an incoming attack, that it took Australian companies more than a week to be able to identify the attack and understand its impact, and then potentially several months to stop it. So we need to get better at stopping stuff at the edge. We need to get better at protecting our networks. We need to do it in a way that all of our tooling is integrated, not just sitting out there by itself. So if I can leave you with that, thank you very much for attending. I think I'm exactly on time, according to this clock. What about your clock? Am I on time?
Yeah, 1 minute.
We're around. Please come and see us if you have any other questions. I'm quite happy to show you more examples. And if you wanted to get on the Fastly network, it's very, very quick and easy to do that. You can just go and sign up, fastly.com/sign up. Thank you very much.